And some of you, you can sit through almost anything. Service doesn't get to you. Your conscience, you've drowned it out. Yeah, and even your mother's prayer, you've got an awful relationship. You cuss your mother out. You're mad at your parents. I can remember when I was a teenager wanting to be wild. I even screamed at my mother one time and said, why can't you be like my friends' parents? They give them the beer. They give them the condoms. They just say, be careful. Why do I have to have fanatic parents that hold Bibles and plead the blood and pray in the Spirit? Why do my parents have to be crazy? Why can't I have some partying parents? You better thank God for the parents you've got, and thank God that He put you where He put you, or the devil would already have you. But if God can't get through to you any other way, sometimes it takes the sorrows of life. What is that? Just like Jonah, the only way God could get through to him was trouble swallowed him. It can happen. Your life can change in a moment's time, and you can encounter the roadblock of the sorrows of life.
Rusty? Oh, God. Help me, Jesus. Not my brother. Anything but my brother. Oh, God.
You see, I see it every day. I've been pastoring for 16 years, and I've preached the funerals of teenagers. I preached one funeral of a 16-year-old one time, and this whole class came out. And I watched 40 kids. Nothing could reach them. Nobody could reach them, but when their best friend got killed, and I gave the altar call, 40 of them came down and bowed at the coffin. Listen. I read something one time that touched me. They said when a shepherd wants to take his sheep across the river to the other side, sheep, because of the thickness of their wool, are terrified of water. And so what he has to do to get them to want to cross the river to the other side is he will go in the fold and take one of the little sheep, and he'll wade out in the water with it and put it on the other side. And then the other sheep will see that one that's been taken by the shepherd across the way. And they will begin to yearn to be with that little sheep again. When I read that, I thought, I preached to young people before that up until a certain point in their life, they had no desire for God. But sometimes a tragedy can come along, and God takes somebody, and you begin to yearn to know the Lord. Don't let it take a tragedy. Don't let it take a jail cell. Don't let it take trouble. Don't let it take an unwanted pregnancy before you wake up. Don't let it take a sexually transmitted disease. Look on that row. One in every 7 teenagers in the United States is carrying a sexually transmitted disease. 2.5 million teenagers in America are carrying AIDS in their body, and we laugh. But if God can't get through to us any other way, He'll send the sorrow of life. I brought someone here tonight. Sarah Glover, would you come up here with me? I want you to give her a big hand. Would you do this? I want to tell you about Sarah. Now, you listen up, youth pastors. Sarah has been and still is a youth pastor. Bill, I want you to play. Has been a youth pastor. I want Bill to play on the keyboard. Sarah has been a youth pastor for 40 years. She has 300 plus teenagers in her youth group in Summerton, Alabama. But listen to me. The reason I invited Sarah when I was just a teenager, I used to come to your church and there in Summerton and preach, and we've seen amazing things. But let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened. Something happened that changed that youth group. They went on a mission trip. Just another trip, just like you guys have come to Forward on a trip. You know, everybody wants to go on a trip. Kids that don't even go on Wednesday night, they'll show up and sign up for the trip. Sarah went on a mission trip with how many kids?
About 75.
Give me a mic.
About 75 young people.
About 75 young people. And they had the afternoon off. They were going to minister that night. And they decided to go swimming in the beach, some of the young people on the beach. And one of those young people got out in the water. The undercurrent got him. You take it from there.
Actually, they weren't swimming. They were just waiting in the ocean. Two couples walking along and were waiting in the ocean, and we'd gone there to sing, actually, at a big worldwide conference. We were supposed to sing the next night, actually, and they were just waiting along in the audience, in the ocean, and an undercurrent got hold of Danny. Danny was the most loved young person in our youth group, a real child of God. He loved the Lord. He had great big dimples, and everybody just loved Danny. And they decided that they would go swimming in the ocean, and when they, or not swimming but wading, and when they were walking along, this undertow just got hold of him, and he realized he was in trouble, and the other three young people that were with him began to pull on him and try to get him out, and they even called a policeman off of the street to come and try to help them get him out of the water. But it was so strong that there was no way that they could get him out of the water. And I remember that I was there with my two children and my husband, and we weren't with these young people at that particular time. And I came down and opened the elevator door to go to lunch that day, and one of my young people was standing there and screaming in my face, "Come quick, Danny has drowned. Danny has drowned." I couldn't believe, there was just no way I could comprehend that that had happened. I remember running for 10 blocks in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where it was hot. And when I got there and I arrived on the scene, they already had pulled Danny's body out. He was covered with a sheet, and the young people were congregating there with him. And we had to sit there for 7 hours on that beach.
So Danny's body is laying on the beach covered.
Yes, yes.
And you're waiting on the rescue people to come, and all of your teenagers are on their knees weeping and crying.
Yes.
For 7 hours?
For 7 hours. Something called forensic medicine had to come and release his body, and they were on the other side of the island, and they couldn't come until 7 hours later. We sat there and we waited. And I remember thinking, when I get home, I'll get under my bed and I'll never come out again. I'll give up, and all these young people will give up. That's what was in my mind, because this was so tragic that I couldn't even believe.